fans, isn't it? You play a football match without fans, isn't it? It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch it, it becomes nothing.
Into Johnston. Johnson. And a goal by Johnston. Larson. Oh, he's in. Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! Nakamura. He has done it. Isn't that just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won.
A star is born at Celtic.
Champions. That's who we are.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Tuesday Tic Talk with the Jungle Gyms podcast. It's myself, McGinty, Anthony, whoever you want to call me, Shetland if you're Woodsy, of course, and the young James. I say young, I think he's actually the year below me in high school, but still, he's younger than the rest of us. James, how are you doing this week?
I'm alright, and I'll just stress the fact that we're no still at high school. That's a few years ago now. So.
Definitely long gone those days.
Aye, all good, mate. After the weekend, don't think many people seen that coming. Always makes it all the nicer. So, all good.
Yeah, definitely makes it so much better seeing a good, although not emphatic win with it just being a 1-0, but I think personally a good strong performance and a good strong win. Psychologically, I think it's a very good win, especially how events unfolded within that game, which I'm more than sure we'll delve into as the podcast in the next hour kind of ticks by. But before we get right into the game, I want to roll us back a few more days and let's try and take this chronologically. And first up, let's take it as the Champions League group stage was announced last week. The 4 teams that we're most concerned about is Celtic, Feyenoord, Lazio, and Atletico Madrid. What's your take, James?
Delighted, mate, to be honest. It'll be tough. It was always going to be tough, but I wanted I say easiest. It's not going to be easy, but I think you would have probably maybe struggled to pick an easier group. It's definitely what you'd have wanted. Feyenoord out pot 1. You can't ask for much more than that. We've already beat Lazio twice in fairly recent times, and Atletico Madrid I think will be the best team in the group, but I think Atletico Madrid has kind of regressed as well because I think they've sold a few players. I don't think they're what they once were. Easy for me to say, but no, it'll be hard, but it could have been 100 times worse. So I think it's going to be a really competitive group. I'd take third now. I still think we could possibly sneak second. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'm scouting through the rest of the groups just now. I think there's one group that I would have potentially taken if we take ourselves as obviously pot 4 and assume that the other 3, pot 1, 2, and 3 teams would all stay the same. Definitely wouldn't want Bayern Munich or Man United. I think Man United are there for the taking as an English team, but knowing what Celtic are like, I wouldn't want to face them. But Group B, you're sitting with Sevilla, PSV, and Arsenal. I wouldn't be too against that. Sevilla have not been the team that they once were. I'm actually surprised they're in the Champions League performance-wise from their domestic campaign last year. I presume they must have got in there through winning the Europa League because domestically last year they were pretty woeful along with Valencia. They're not the team they once used to be. And I would put PSV on a par with maybe Feyenoord as a difficult tie, but not an impossible tie. But you look at Group C with Napoli and Real Madrid, no thank you. Benfica and Salzburg, no thank you. PSG and Dortmund, definitely no thank you. Man City and Leipzig, absolutely not. And Barcelona and Porto, maybe take Porto rather than not have Barcelona. So I think arguably we've got one of the better groups as far as we're concerned.
I mean, last year I think we all wanted Real Madrid because we hadn't had Real Madrid in God knows how long. But I think this year the kind of general feeling was stick a glamour up your pipe. Let's take a kind of achievable group, and I think we've got that. As I say, obviously there isn't going to be any easy games in it, but I think it's a really competitive group. Weirdly enough, I could be totally wrong here. I don't obviously watch a lot of Dutch football apart from when they're playing at Ibrox, but I've totally lost my train of thought there.
No, it's fine. Okay. Yeah.
Feyenoord being Dutch champions, and PSV obviously didn't look bad. I know they obviously weren't playing very much, so Feyenoord must have something about them. But you'd probably, looking at the group, it's weird because you probably think that Feyenoord would maybe be the team that we would be competing with, which is weird because it's maybe it is the pot one team. But not overall, it's going to be, I think it'll be really competitive. I hope that we can win our 3 home games, maybe win 2 and draw with Atletico. And that'll put us right in contention, depending on what we do away for him.
I think when you talk about Feyenoord obviously being the pot 1 team there, and looking at Sevilla also were the pot 1 team as well, I do believe they're probably the 2 weakest of the pot 1 teams, but that's the funny way of the coefficients and how UEFA structure where pot 1 teams would actually fall into. I'll take Feyenoord every day of the week. I think Atletico Madrid are a much stronger team than Feyenoord. But as you said earlier on, James, they're not the team they once were. They're there to be got at. They play a rigid 4-4-2 with Diego Simeone for many, many years now. It's a team that is they're quite rigid in what they do, but they know exactly what they're doing, and they're very good at it on their day. But they're also very predictable, I think. And if you've got a smart manager, who I firmly still believe Brendan Rodgers is, he might still be able to get something out of them. I'm not expecting anything off Atletico Madrid, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a draw somewhere along the lines against them. Feyenoord, I expect us to take the game to them, regardless of what we talk about next in regards to transfer activities. Lazio, that's the one that's, I think, going to throw us a bit more than anything else. How much do we all personally know about Lazio? Other than the last couple of years, they've actually been flying quite high in Serie A. However, we have went against the likes of Inter Milan before, who have flown high, and we've performed quite well. So Lazio, I'm not too scared about, but they are a dark horse would be a bad term for them. But they are one that I would not take lightly in that sense. But as you said, the key word I think that you're bringing out of this is it's a competitive group. It's there that realistically, if we had done better in the transfer window, we could get through that in second place. But I think realistically, we have to look at that and say, third is ours if we really, really want it. If we play to our top levels with we can possibly, we're able to get European football after Christmas.
I'd take third to now. I think we could sneak second. As you say, if we'd maybe signed another couple of players in the transfer window, maybe be a bit more confident about getting second place. But hopefully that's us obviously getting into an international break now, so we've got a couple of weeks. Hopefully get a couple of players back. I know obviously Carter Vickers and the Verotsky will probably be missing still, but get a few players back, and we've got the feel good factor back after the weekend. So let's hope we can carry it on now.
So with that, just bring up a couple of comments there from the guys that Taylor will be the one that gets targeted most. I firmly agree. I think every team that we play against for the rest of this year, until we rectify that, hopefully in January, they're going to target our left backside. Weird 3 words there. But yeah, they're going to target the left side as much as possible. Joe Hart as well, they're going to look to try and make him kind of fumble the ball. They're going to pressurise him, especially knowing that we're going to play out from the back and do the short passing. I think every team can see where our weaknesses are. It's up to us to try and build on it, and Rodgers to firm up the back 5, including the goalkeeper, to see if he can get the tune out of Greg Taylor that Ange once did, but by playing him in a slightly different system and style rather than the inversion fullback, but playing as a traditional overlapping fullback that Rodgers would like. Now, the 2 positions we've just mentioned there, left back and goalkeeper, I think we can both agree over the last few weeks is the glaring issues in our transfer dealings that we've completely overlooked. other than those two, James, how are you feeling after the window closed with the extra signings of guys like Palmer coming in, Nat Phillips at centre back, and even I think it's Paolo Bernardo as a loan option in central midfield?
I don't know, mate. Coming into it, I felt as if a goalkeeper and a left back was an absolute must. And then obviously Starfelt and Jota leave, so of course they need replaced. I think the only area that you could say, I suppose midfield as well, but it still feels to me that we've got a lot of midfielders that are really similar. They all kind of want to play the same game. But outweigh that, I think at centre back, obviously when we get Bodie's back, I think we'll be absolutely fine. Left back still a worry, because if Taylor gets injured, who's not been great, we're playing Bernaby, who looks even worse. And then Joe Hart, I will give him loads of credit for the weekend. I thought he was excellent. Let's hope he can keep it up. So that cuts him a wee bit of slack, but I still feel we should have brought a goalkeeper in. I felt as if that was going into the window, that before obviously Andy left, that was the two glaring weaknesses, and we've come out the window and we haven't done anything with them. That's
the biggest shame for me, is that we've not even touched them. The conversation for Livakovic, I think he eventually went, was it Fenerbahce he went to? That rolled on for a number of weeks, and the club never officially made that rumour themselves. But they never quashed it either, in my opinion. Sometimes you see the club will quash a rumour. Left back as well, the only real name that ever got brought up in the last 2 weeks was the loan deal for Kieran Tierney, who eventually went to Real Sociedad. And it looks like he's probably going to be a quality player for them. But see, apart from those two names, for two really massive key positions that you've just agreed with, were glaring issues before the window opened. Why were we never linked with anybody else?
I think the left back one, I think there would have been an appetite for a new left back, because we're linked with the French boy Merlin as well. With the goalkeeper, I don't know if that was maybe just a wee bit pie in the sky for us, because the Livakovic thing was there, but it was only really kind of Twitter speak, and then there was a talk about Kelleher coming up for Liverpool and stuff like that. There was never any kind of concrete rumours. The left back thing, I genuinely, I thought we would have got him, and I don't know if maybe the clubs felt the same way as well about Kieran Tierney. Obviously the guy Merlin was linked as well, so I think the club have probably had a list for left back, but for whatever reason it's not went through. The goalkeeper thing, I think maybe internally with the club, the plan has always been to keep Hart to the end of this season and then replace him in the summer.
Do you think that's a wise thing to do? Keeping Hart for that year without his successor being in the door just now to kind of build them into the side? I mean, we have to assume that Siegrist and Bain are not going to be number one choice for Celtic ever. We have to assume that Siegrist is going to be moved on from the club at some point. Bain may just see out his days as being a happy backup, but surely we should be looking to have whoever it may be the true successor to the number one shirt. Surely we need him in the door sooner rather than later.
I said it on here a couple of weeks ago. I thought it would have been negligence if we didn't bring a goalkeeper in. I stand by that. As I say, Hart was brilliant at the weekend, so I'm not going to have a go at him for anything I thought happened at the weekend, but I still think overall it has been on the decline for the tail end of last season. That game at the weekend hopefully gives him a wee bit of confidence back and we can start kicking on, but the window's shut now, it's not going to happen, so we need to get behind them and fingers crossed, as I say, kicks on to now.
So, just before we do move on from transfer dealings, this is the first podcast we've done since the window slammed shut on Friday night. We made, I think it's 9 signings overall. Just running through Transfer Market website, so I'm just going to run through the list. Omitting Iwata, who was permanently signed after his loan deal, always going to happen. But we brought in Navrocki, Palma, Lagerbielke, Thiago Holm, Yang, Tilio, Kwon, Nathan Phillips, and Paolo Bernardo. Just double checked a few things there, yeah. So there's a big wealth of talent has came in. age-wise, I'm seeing a distinct lack of real experience in the days when we signed Giacomakis, Juranovic, Kyogo, Joe Hart, people who had already learned the trade as such. And that's the concern for me going into the season. But as you said, the window's shut now. There's not much else we can say or do. Let's get behind the team. And in doing so, let's move on and talk about the game on Sunday, because I believe if we had fans at Ibrox on Sunday, they would have been in full voice supporting that side and they would have enjoyed that game 100%. What was your feelings on the game, James?
I can't lie. In the morning, well, leading up to it, it's probably the least confident I've been getting into a Celtic Rangers game since the COVID season. Then I seen the lineup, and obviously it looks as if the rumours about Phillips being injured are true. You've got Scales in, Turnbull in. I must admit, I feared the worst. I knew they weren't great, but I genuinely just felt, for watching us the last couple of weeks, that we were going to be that bit worse. But I'm sure we've all seen the Lemmy thinking about the "I forgot how shite you actually are." I think that genuinely just sums up the day. Honestly, watching the game, obviously they scored after 30 seconds. He's like 4 mile offside. You could tell watching that in real time. But after that, it was 1-0, but see if it was 3 or 4 with the chances we had. I know they missed a couple as well. The guy with the long hair, which is Lammers, the one he missed. But I know they probably second half of the opening of the ball, but I don't really think if it was 2 or 3-0 to us with the chances we had, they could have complained. And for where I was at like 9 o'clock in the morning to where I was come 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was night and day, and just absolutely brilliant. And I think it's the first time that it feels as if we've got Brendan Rodgers back, if that makes sense. It's the first time he's actually shown a bit, because the last kind of few weeks he's just been standing at the side with his hands in his pockets, and he was taking a bit of flack and all that. And then, dare I say it, a wee bit David Brent-esque, and it's good to see that back. It feels as if he's back when he's coming out and he's saying, "I just told them to play like men," and there's absolutely no, obviously, kind of tactical nous in that, but it's exactly what was needed when we seen the team. Scales, brilliant. Lagerbielke was the one that probably looked shaky. Scales looked like the experienced one in there. But no, I was absolutely delighted. The ones that needed to stand up and be counted really did. And as I say, it really could have been more. Probably should have been more with the chances that we had.
I agree. Most certainly on the guys who stood up to be counted, they really did take the responsibility of that game very serious, especially when you look at guys like Liam Skills and Callum McGregor as the captain. I think that's McGregor's best game this season, especially the first half. They gave him so much space. My concerns about the midfield is still there. I don't believe we can be playing Turnbull and O'Reilly in the same midfield. I think it's absolutely pointless, and it makes McGregor sit far too deep on his own almost and having to do too much work. But they, for some reason, stood off him in the first half, and that just allowed Callum McGregor to dictate the game. Fantastic performance from him. I think Liam Scales stood up to the task of playing in his first Celtic Rangers derby game. He was absolutely outstanding. I believe he did get the man of the match, and I think it's firmly deserved. Lagerbielke, let's talk about him a little bit here. There was 2 goals that were called, 2 goals disallowed, shall we say, for Rangers. The first one was a clear offside, so it doesn't really bode talking about at all, but the ball was in the back of the net, so it does get a small mention. But the other big one is when Lagerbielke was, in my opinion, dithering on the ball a bit too much. He was taking his sweet ass time, and I think it was Dessers comes in to nick the ball off him, takes it beyond him. He lays it in for somebody else who scores a goal, and then the VAR check comes in. I honestly felt Lagerbielke was fully at fault for that, and I was screaming his name, cursing his name to the heavens. But see, once you see VAR taking control of it, it was only ever going to be one outcome, and a correct one at that, because it's a foul at the end of the day. Now, we're going to talk about it briefly, and I don't want to dwell on it, but only because it's a talking point within Scottish football just now, because that other team seemingly are taking it to the SFA to ask for clarity and stuff, which beggars a belief and is baffling considering VAR literally ruled it in our favour, rightly so. But what are they arguing about? He doesn't get the ball before he takes the man. What else can be said?
That's it. That's it in a nutshell. He doesn't take the ball. Lagerbielke 100% at fault. He takes about 25 minutes too long. But even when he turns, he's still going to play the pass. You can clearly see that. That's why the contact is made. That's it in a nutshell. The guy, Dessers, does not take the ball. If it goes against you, I get you'd be raging. I understand that. But he's still trying to play the pass. He can't play the pass because he's essentially obstructed by the guy's foot who hasn't won the ball. So therefore, it is a foul. But I must admit, watching it in real time, I agree with you. It takes far too long in the ball and you're slaughtering him for it. But as soon as that tackle's made, I was expecting a foul he gave kind of there and then obviously he's let it go, and that kind of fucking, if it goes to VAR, he'd probably give a shy or something the way it goes up here. But I did think watching it in real time it was a foul, and then when I seen the replay, I'm like that is a foul. I'm like, he hasn't won the ball. If he nicks the ball off Lagerbielke's toe and he runs through, fair enough. But he doesn't play the ball. Lagerbielke's in control of the ball. Dessers didn't win it. It's a free kick.
Exactly. And that's it at the end of the day, isn't it? It's a free kick. There's nothing else to talk about from our side of it. I'm sure the rest of the phone-ins and, other Scottish football generic podcasts will talk about this one for a while, and especially podcasts on their side will be greeting the eyes about this one. But at the end of the day, that's it. It was a foul. It was clear as day. Even Bobby Madden has been on Instagram and taken it still by still and explained how this happens. And I actually agree with Bobby Madden in his Instagram post where he says, in real time, even a referee will do what I did, which is look at it and go, you dithered, you took too long, you've been lazy with the ball, you deserve that. But when you look at VAR and you see what actually happened, and that's exactly what VAR is here for. That's the outcome. And it's not often we get to see that on this podcast as Celtic fans at all, but VAR did the job right for once.
I was just going to say it's probably bad days when Bobby Madden's agreeing with you, but
exactly.
We'll make an exception. But the other one that isn't getting mentioned, I think I actually put it in the group chat on Sunday. I don't know if you'd have clocked it. It was when Kyogo, see the one the ball gets caught under his feet a wee bit, and he has the shot, and I think Butland saves it, and then Goldson's kind of pretty much on the line to clear it. See, literally about 2 seconds after that, when Butland's going back, he just shoves Kyogo, two hands on him, just shoves him to the ground, and it never get mentioned. If a defender does that, it's a penalty, but because he's got a pair of gloves on, then it's fine. It didn't get mentioned. But just a bit of a joke. There was a couple of kind of moments in the game. The Goldson one's potentially a handball, but it probably would be harsh, I think. But the Butland one, I couldn't believe it didn't even get a mention before. After the game. We never seen a replay. If you go back and watch it, once Kyogo plays that shot, hits the shot, the ball's still in play. It doesn't go. It's still in play, and Butland just bounces to his feet and just two hands and absolutely shoves him to the ground.
There's 2 videos kicking about of this one on Twitter and social media. One is awfully zoomed in, so when the ball gets saved and it goes up in the air, you're not too sure if it's going out for a by kick or something. But there is one that's just slightly more zoomed in, and you actually see the ball going over the top of the screen, and it's clearly miles in play still. The play's happening kind of like more towards the edge of the 18-yard box at that time. I missed it during the game. I think with the fact that Kyogo scuffed that shot where it being caught under his feet and stuff, I was more like, Kyogo, kind of like hands in the air. So I've missed that in real time. But I'm not a paid referee, so, I'm allowed to miss these things. But how that never got picked up, that is actually quite criminal. 2 hands straight on his back, shoved to the floor. The ball's still in play, as he said. It's not right to be shoving players around like that, even if the ball's out of play. But the fact that it is in play, it's a clear foul and a clear penalty. Because what else is he doing? that ball's going to bounce back into the 6-yard box, and you've literally just shoved the main attacker to the ground to rule him out of the game. That's a penalty. Madness. But then, as Plunge is saying here, with Butland and Golson, shove the wee man, no mention of it. It looks like Jack Butland has literally came up to Ibrox and just basically signed on the dotted line at the end of the playbook of Ibrox football teams, and it's just a case of do what you please because you get away with it, a la Golson every single time.
To be fair though, I think he's probably the only one for their team that comes out with kind of probably pass marks for this side. He kind of fairly kept the score down, the shot for Abada that he saved, but we didn't get a goal offer. So he was probably the only one that you looked and thought, right, he looks not a bad player. But I could not believe, because obviously we've watched us this season and we've come on here and we don't really see what we're doing, passing it sideways. We don't have that kind of cutting edge. Everything's kind of slow and laboured. And then we maybe seen a couple of their games in Europe and maybe the game at Rugby Park and things like that. And you're like, right, they're shite as well. I said it last week. I said it with two teams slinging shite at each other. I don't think it was quite as bad as that. I don't think it was a great game to watch. I don't think the football for either team for the most part of the game was excellent. But I mean, looking at the other side, it's fucking Celtic reserves are playing. Do you know what I mean? And we still went there, go to Job Dunn, played some nice football, cutting them open a few times. And as I say, probably should have been more. And it's probably right up there with my favourite victories at Ibrox, just because of how totally unexpected it was. The only one you could probably liken it to was Samaras, the 2-0 game. I don't think we had a prayer that day either.
Yeah, I think it's, as I said earlier, it wasn't a convincing win. It wasn't emphatic. It wasn't a big scoring victory. If it was a 7-0 one, we might have actually been sitting here on Sunday afternoon, gloating with big cheeses on our face, doing a post-match special about it. It was just a 1-0, but it felt so satisfying. I think with the build-up to it, the fact that we were so disenfranchised with everything around the club last week, we can still have our opinions, and I think all our opinions on the transfer dealings and how the club's operated in the background is all very, very much relevant and still topics for conversations throughout the season. But everything seems so doom and gloom. The transfer window slammed shut, and I'm just not that overwhelmed by it. I mean, I'm hopeful for 2 or 3 players to actually come good, but I'm not sitting here thinking that we've signed players who are instantly making us better. And you go into that game thinking, let's just not take a hiding here. Let's take a draw if we have to and get away with it. But we went there, we dominated the first half for sure. We've watched them get a goal disallowed, and they cheered it, let's remember, because they're all that bloody self-entitled. They thought that they were just going to get everything anyway. And yes, it was only 1-0, which probably frustrates them more than anything else. But it was still quite a solid 1-0 victory. I don't think we were ever really that troubled per se. We were to an extent. And with the offside goal and with the foul on Lagerbielke, it did feel at times that, oh fuck, they're going to keep cutting us open if they keep that long ball, especially down the left side. But they didn't really do much with it because their front three is absolutely honking. Cairo, as you said, should have had 2 or 3 easily himself. I think Abada did not too bad in his game. I think Maeda, who takes a lot of slack from me, especially as a winger, I think he had a very good game, although still not a winger, as seen by his cross in the first half, I think it was. But his work rate defensively to cover for both Taylor and later on Bernabe was absolutely fantastic. I think we would have been under some serious trouble if we didn't have Maeda doing his work rate defensively there. But I'm going to bring it back to Liam Scales. That guy stood up and was counted for. And it actually, I think, helped Lagerbielke, who obviously could have went into hiding after that disallowed goal. He could have been absolutely humiliated and lost all his confidence, but he actually grew into the game as well, along with Liam Scales. They done a post-match interview with the two of them. Liam Scales got presented with the Man of the Match award, and Scales made a good comment that that's 2 games in a row for those two at centre back, 2 clean sheets, but he firmly understands he's not a first choice, and he's not gonna take the Rocky or Carter displays, and he knows fine well that Lagerbielke's ahead of him as well. But see if he honestly keeps doing what he's doing, he's got a shout for some minutes throughout this season and have a good campaign with us. And fair play to the lad. Absolute fair play to the lad. One thing I want to say about that interview that they did, though, the Sky interviewer tried to push Lagerbielke to say that he fucked up and to say that it wasn't a foul. He wanted to push the agenda and try and get some sort of reaction to it. And fair play to Liam Scale, because Lagerbielke, English not his first language, obviously, trying to be nice and polite, trying to be very diplomatic with his responses. And Liam Scale's in the side going, it was a foul. Definitely a foul. It was a foul. No other way but it was a foul. He's like, just shut them right down. I'm like, go on, son. You understand the situation. Just shut them up.
Aye, that's it. Like, he knows the script. Obviously, maybe he's been here long enough. He's obviously came from Shamrock Rovers, but he'll know the script. At the end of the day, he's telling the truth as well, isn't he? But I 100% agree with you on just to get back on Maeda. I thought he was excellent, and I'm probably not his biggest fan either. I thought he was excellent. Still, as you say, had a couple of moments where the one fucking crossing it for one side out to the other for a shy.
Brutal.
Aye, there was a couple of moments like that, but as you say, the after work, just the running, he does his best work when he's not got the ball. Absolutely fantastic. Another one that's probably come in for a wee bit of flack and I think deserves massive credit for the weekend was Matt O'Reilly. Seen a kind of different side to Matt O'Reilly. Maybe more thinking him kind of going forward, playing the nice passes, getting the shots away and things like that. But defensively, I thought he was excellent at the weekend. So many interceptions at the edge of the box when they were needed, and I think that McGregor was excellent as well. But I think that helped McGregor having kind of somebody there beside him, because I could be wrong. It's just my opinion, but I feel for the earlier part of the season up to the weekend, O'Reilly and Turnbull are playing forward. And as I said last week, we've no got the inverted fullbacks all the time anymore. So it's leaving McGregor really exposed in there. And I think that's why it's maybe he's copped a wee bit of flack to this point in the season. But I think O'Reilly being in there, O'Reilly was excellent. McGregor was excellent. McGregor probably was my man of the match. I know Scales got it. But I thought McGregor absolutely bossed the game defensively and going forward the amount of attacks he started. But Matt O'Reilly, if he keeps that form up, then he's going to nail down a place himself.
So something, again, I've mentioned already today, I don't think we can play Turnbull and O'Reilly in the same midfield. I think they play too similar position and neither of them have great speed to do what McGregor needs him to do next to him, which is what Hatate's done for the last year and a half next to him. McGregor needs somebody to work with him. McGregor needs somebody that when he goes forward, the other one can sit back and that they can quickly change and flip the positions and play it off each other very well. McGregor's doing both those same jobs at one time while the other two are doing a number 10 role together. And it's almost, it really just feels like we're a man down in midfield when we play those two. And I don't mean any too much disrespect to David Turnbull. He is the weaker of the two. You're 100% right that O'Reilly had a superb game there as well. What do you think about the midfield then? I think we can probably sit here and agree that McGregor and O'Reilly should probably be two of the three. But who would be your third choice?
Well, I think Rodgers would have liked it to be Turnbull. He came out obviously and said he liked him. He had a good start to the season, the first game, but I don't think he's really done a lot since to deserve his start. He's probably one of the ones, him and Scales, I think we would all have been in the same boat at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning when we seen the team coming out. You seen the two starting. I think it was a lot of people wanting Holm to start. A few were looking for Awati to come back in, and obviously we were hoping that Phillips was going to be fit to come in for Scales. But as much as Scales stepped up to the plate on Sunday, I feel as if Turnbull, the game just kind of passed him by. He didn't. I don't think you could really point to a moment in the game where he thought Turnbull done really well there. Probably similar with Greg Taylor, to be honest. I think they were the two. The game was just kind of kind of passed them by. Moving forward, Hatate will come back into that midfield, no doubt about it. And then we've obviously signed a guy for Benfica, Paulo Bernardo. We'll need to get a look at him as well, because I imagine he'll probably be quite a similar player to kind of what O'Reilly and Turnbull want to play in that kind of number 10 role. So Turnbull will maybe find himself in the pecking order again. But to be honest, that for me, like, I've defended Turnbull on here before. I do like Turnbull. I think he's definitely got his uses, but he's never a starter. He's one of the players that you're looking to bring off the bench kind of later on in a game. So that he'll be back on the bench for me. Don't know anything about the Portuguese guy, but I think Hatate walks straight back into the team in favour of Turnbull.
I think you're 100% right. I personally miss seeing Hatate do what he does best next to McGregor, and I think he should be the one who walks straight back in alongside McGregor and O'Reilly. As for the kind of the backup three, I like to do this thing where I have a first 11 and a backup 11 per se, because I like to have two players for every position. And if we take the midfield three of McGregor, Hatate, and O'Reilly, I think we're probably looking at Oden, Thiago, Home kind of being the backup to McGregor per se. Paulo Bernardo, who is more of a defensive midfielder, I think, rather than an attacking number 10 one, judging by his transfer market. I know nothing else about him. But I'm trusting the club scouted him enough. There's obviously a link and a pathway with Jota coming from Benfica as a loan-to-buy option, and it's a similar sort of deal with Bernardo. So I expect that he's here to play some game time and to try and stake a claim and make a permanent move and see what happens with him after that. So I expect that he's going to get game time, and I'd expect that he's maybe more of the backup to Hatate, which makes you question where's Awata going to fit into it. The third backup version then, if I'm taking it for almost a direct like for the midfield three, probably still leaves you with David Turnbull as a place in a rotation option with O'Reilly, but he's most certainly not a starting 11 for us, not by a long shot.
Nah, 100%. You've still got Kwon in there as well. I know that Athletic Bilbao game will probably live long in the memory, but obviously he's just come in the door, so I imagine we're going to see him at some point. But no, I agree with you with Turnbull. As I say, I like Turnbull, but I O'Reilly and Turnbull in the same midfield, there isn't enough energy there.
Energy, that's it. Yeah, there's no energy between them. As skillful and tactically great as both Turnbull and O'Reilly is, O'Reilly being the better one, there's no energy. That's exactly it, James.
And as I say, I think that's how Hatate, regardless of who it is, it was starting. I think Hatate will walk back into the team anyway. But it will be interesting when we come back after the break, because obviously Brendan Rodgers sees something in Turnbull. I don't think he would have played the minutes he's played this season, and he's been praised up half Rodgers. Showed it the first game, he's not really showed it since. And obviously, as we've discussed, we've brought players in for that position. I think Oden Thiago looked good when he came on at the weekend as well. So it'll be interesting to see how we shape up when we come back with the bodies back after the break.
So just move the conversation forward, even within the lineup itself, and as we say, with the hope that we've got a bit of time off here with the international breaks, that people come back from injuries. I know that they won't all be back, but it's a time for injuries to come back and for the new players to work with the manager and the squad and see where they can fit in. I'm going to ask this question in kind of two ways. Let's take the front three. So left wing, left attack, right wing, right attack, and the striker position. Who would be your preferred front three, and who do you think Rodgers will have as a preferred front three?
Based off what we've seen, my preferred front three would be Yang, Maida, and Abada. Yang, Kyogo, and Abada. But I think we'll see what we've seen at the weekend. Maida, Kyogo, and Abada. I think he will stick with that. But I've liked what I've seen of Yang so far. Maida, similar to Turnbull, will definitely have his uses. We've said it on here till we're blue in the face. He can't start every game. There's going to be some away games where there's absolutely no space for him to play in. We've seen it 100 times before, and that's where you'd need somebody with a wee bit of skill that can get past a man, and that's where Yang comes in. Palma as well, that's true. I forgot all about Palma. Obviously, no seen in him, so he'll get introduced as well. Aye. So, based off what I've seen, Yang, Kyogo and Abada, and then bring Palma in as well.
Yeah. I've got the fear that Maeda will keep getting minutes. I just wonder if he's got something in his contract that means he must start a game or something, because that's two managers who just seem to convincingly keep playing at left wing. Even though Rodgers tried him at centre forward during the pre-season and he looked quite good. Obviously, he does well for Japan there, and he played there in Japan in the domestic scene. It's amazing me that he still gets to play. But I'm intrigued by the fact that we've just signed Palmer, and that's why I'm keeping this comment up here by Charles. It makes me wonder if Palmer's going to be seen as the preferred left winger. Kyle go straight through the middle always, every day. Which, by the way, on Sunday, he looked like he was instructed more to play his old way rather than coming deep too much. He was very much playing off the shoulder of the defence line and trying to make those runs. Hopefully that continues. But we all know I've personally got a liking for Abada. I think he's a great talent. I think with the comments that Rodgers has made earlier in the summer and the fact that he signed that extension to his deal, I think Abada is definitely going to be the nailed-on right winger with Yang as his kind of backup or rotation. I think Kyogo and O have the kind of centre-forward position. And I think we're going to see, surely just by default, that this must be a Rodgers signing of some ilk. We must be looking at Palmer being the left wing. So I'm looking at Abada, Kyogo, and Palmer with a backup of Yang, O, and more than likely Maeda. Tilio, I'm excited to see what he can do, but it's not a Rodgers signing. He's came in early doors. I have no expectations or understanding of the player, and I reckon along with him and Kwon, they're players who are just going to get forgotten about by Rodgers unless they somehow explode. I don't think he's going to give them much chance when there's other people in those positions already.
We've still got Haksabanovic. He's going down to Stoke to score 40 goals, get recalled in January, then come back up and play the number 10 for us. So we've still got him to come back in. So we're sorted there. That's going to be as good as a new signing in January anyway, isn't it? So fingers crossed.
Aye. Maybe he can take over from Turnbull at that point. Question for you then: is Haksabanovic away on a 6-month loan or season long?
I've no idea, mate. I'm assuming it's a season-long loan deal. I'm only saying that I've seen Punchy's comment there. I'm assuming it's a season-long loan deal.
Surely it must be, but I bring that conversation and question up because I remember that Nat Phillips, who we signed on a 6-month loan deal, which I can understand because of the centre-back injuries that we have, especially with the Rangers game just there at the weekend and with Champions League games coming up as soon as we come back, almost second game after Dundee. It's just interesting, it's 6 months, but the guy's already injured. So I'm not sure what we expect Phillips to do. And I was wondering, is it something that we've done with Haksabanovic? Not that there's any correlation to it, but just of the off chance that maybe we would see him back in January. But surely not.
No, I think that Phillips was essentially brought in as an emergency loan, just with the injuries. Obviously, if Liam Scales didn't put in that performance at the weekend, we'd be on here saying, why have we signed this guy to play this period and he's injured? But obviously, the performance Scales puts that in the back burner. I imagine Phillips will play. I don't think Liverpool's going to, because he's played a few games for Liverpool, so I don't think they're going to let him come up here to sit on the bench. So I imagine whilst Nawrocki and Carter Vickers are out, it will be Phillips and Lagerbielke at the back. Scales on the bench. We've still got Welsh as well, it's injured as well, so it'll be Scales on the bench with the two starting.
So with Scales 2 games in, forming a mild partnership with Lagerbielke, and we can all, as you said there, we all know fine well going forward, the preferred centre-back pairing is going to be Carter Vickers and Nawrocki, assuming that they do make that partnership. Lagerbielke is surely the third choice. If Scales is putting in performances like he did on Sunday, backing up with 2 clean sheets in a row, potentially he's going to play against Dundee at home. Very likely that he'll probably end up having another clean sheet there. Do we stop playing Scales if he's in that kind of form, and even as the fourth choice in favour of Nat Phillips, who is only here for 6 months? But if we don't start playing Nat Phillips before the end of September, the question does come up, what is the point?
Nah, I think Phillips will walk. If Phillips is fit for the D game, I think he'll start, and that might be harsh showing Scales off the back of Sunday. And I know he kept a clean sheet the week before, but he wasn't great. He had one at the end. I think it was Stevie May absolutely kind of schooled him when he ran through, and Joe Hart bails him out. Sorry, and then he was quite slow bringing the ball out for the back. That's totally forgotten about now because of Sunday, and I understand that. I think maybe we're getting a wee bit carried away on Scales. 100% he's come in, done excellent for us on Sunday, but I don't think, what was it, 3 million or 4 million we've paid for Lagerbielke, 5 million for Nawrocki. Carter Vickers is obviously nailed on starter, and then we've brought in a guy for Liverpool. So I don't see Scales will, for the time being, whilst Nawrocki and Carter Vickers are out, I think Scales will be in Welsh as well. I think Scales will be our number 3 centre back with Lagerbielke and Phillips if he's fit.
Do you think Scales would have been away if it wasn't for the injuries?
100%.
Most likely to Aberdeen, do you think?
Probably, aye. I think it would have definitely been away, whether it be Aberdeen or no, or somebody down south or whatever, but I think he would have been away. But obviously the injuries have forced us to keep him. I mean, do you even think we've loaned out Lawal as well? So if we had let Scales go, we really would have been up kind of shit creek without a paddle with the numbers. But aye, that's a fair point as well. Put Scales at left back. He's played there before, and Taylor's no tearing up any trees now. So
I wouldn't be against that plunge. And I saw somebody mention, I don't know if it was yourself as well, plunge. Could we see, considering how many centre backs we do now have at the club for the next 6 months, and remember Stephen Welsh as well, who obviously signed an extension to his deal, but is currently injured as well. We have 5 centre backs who, yes, 2 of them are Welsh and Scales. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that they're going to be, number 1 names on the team sheet in those positions. But with that many centre backs who are all probably really itching for minutes on the park, can we see ourselves playing 3 at the back? Would that then allow somebody like Bernaby to play left wing back and Alistair Johnson on the right side? Would that be of any use to us?
I just don't see it. I know he is better going forward, but I just don't see it with Bernaby. I think he's like a dog chasing a wasp. He just, literally all he does is run away. It's like Maida without a brain. It's what I see in Bernaby. I don't see. I wouldn't start him even as a left wing back. I wouldn't like to see Bernaby starting. I just don't rate him highly enough. 3 at the back. I don't know. I think kind of most teams these days play 4-3-3. It seems to be the kind of trendy thing, doesn't it? And I think that with the players that we've got, or maybe only missing, we've said 100 times, the big kind of holding midfielder. But apart from that, we're set up perfectly for the 4-3-3. Even if you look at striking options, if Kyogo, if it's no working for him, you've got your big kind of more physical presence and on the bench. So I think we are set up for the 4-3-3 absolutely fine. But with Bernaby, I wouldn't trust Bernaby. And that's part of it on Sunday as well. I mean, you look at the defence that finished that game. Fucking, you'd back junior teams to score against that defence. Never mind them at Ibrox. But what was it? Ralston, Lagerbielke, Scales, and Bernaby. It's mental. You genuinely
it's pretty brutal. The fact that they didn't score a goal when you look at the backline that we had finished that game, it is actually pretty brutal that they are that poor. I'm trying to ask this question probably in many different ways, James, and I'm not trying to force a situation on to anything. I'm just trying to kind of talk it out as we're sitting here. With the centre-back options that we have, and with the likelihood that Scales would have left if it wasn't for injuries, that we wouldn't have signed Nat Phillips if it wasn't for injuries. So if we think that through to January, assuming everybody's then fully fit, and you're looking at Carter Vickers, Nawrocki, Lagerbielke, and Stephen Welsh as your 4-choice centre-backs going into the second half of the season, are you still happy? If we assume that Scales is either going left back, because I actually think that might be a good shout, or leaves the club for Aberdeen, and obviously Nat Phillips goes back south.
I'd be happy with that. And that's why I say about Phillips. Unless Phillips comes in, I don't even know if there would be a chance to sign him permanently. But unless he comes in and is absolutely excellent, I don't see you spending another, whatever it would be, million on another centre back, having signed Carter Vickers no so long ago on a permanent, then spent 5 million on Nawrocki and 3 or 4 million, whatever it was, on Lagerbielke. Welsh has obviously just got a new deal as well, so I think it's fairly kind of set that is going to be the 4. And then he might see something in Lawar if he's been loaned out to Fleetwood. Whether or not that will change with Scott Brown not being there anymore, we'll need to see. But I'd be lying if I say that I held any great hopes for Lawar. Haven't seen him a few times, but maybe Rodgers will see something in him. But no, I think that will be our 4. Scales, whether it be left back or whether he be elsewhere. I don't think getting into this window, he would have been in the plans. I think the plan for him would have been either getting back out of loan or get him away somewhere on a permanent. And Nat Phillips, after we signed Nawrocki and Lagerbielke, I don't think we'd been in the market for another centre back until Nawrocki's get injured.
So apparently Liverpool want 10 million for Nat Phillips, which doesn't seem too crazy by EPL standards for an English centre-back. It does sound crazy when he's only played, I think it was 88 games and he's 26 years old, so he doesn't really have the experience to back up a large outlay. However, if he was to do well for us in the next few months and then say we were to extend his loan to the end of the season because he is doing that well with us, could we see £10 million, let's just say, sucker that around about that figure, as a good outlay if, and this is very hypothetical, James, of course, if Carter Vickers was to leave next summer and we could potentially have a ready-made replacement in Phillips, because as much as I say 88 games is not very experienced for a 26-year-old, he's 26. I don't see why Liverpool are expecting him to be then a number 1 centre-back for them. He's at 26 years old. If you had anything really strong about him to be a top 6 EPL club, he would have done something by now. But we've seen it happen at Celtic before where these guys can come up, Boyata for one, and actually could do a turn.
Aye, and in fairness to Liverpool as well, if they're valuing him at 10 million, then they probably won't see him anywhere near being a first choice centre back. He'll probably get some, like Burnley or fucking Chelsea will probably stick a 60 million bid in for him. But if they value him at 10 million, then that'll be pennies to them. So unless he comes up here and he kind of shows what Carter Vickers showed while he was here in loan and he's very, very good, then potentially we could sign him. But I just don't think, having spent the money that we have spent on centre back during the window there, that we will sign him. I think it'd be kind of pointless, to be honest. Lagerbielke has looked maybe alright, maybe a wee bit shaky, but I think he was brought in to be the number 3. So you'd have Carter Vickers and Nawrocki, then your 3-4 million Lagerbielke on the bench, and Welsh there filling a quota as well for the homegrown players. So I think that'll be a fairly set 4. If Carter Vickers does leave, then fair enough. Maybe that Nat Phillips question becomes a wee bit more pertinent. But it's the same kind of similar way I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody said with that the guy for Benfica, Bernardo, that he's quite similar to Matt O'Reilly, and the potential thinking is maybe that he's Matt O'Reilly's replacement if O'Reilly's to leave at the end of the season.
Which would be expected, because we have to assume, much like Jota himself, guys like O'Reilly, Carter Vickers, fantastic player Carter Vickers is, and he's no spring chicken himself when he eventually came up here on loan, then he signed his own deal. He must be about 26, 27 by now. Maybe not 27. He was 24 when he signed for us. Anyway, he's not exactly a youth player anymore. So he's probably figured out that he's not a top 6 player. Although he came from Spurs, he's not Spurs level for the Champions League, for trying to go deep into the competitions and to push for that regular top 4, top 6 positions in English football. He's probably recognised that he's not that player. But he's probably also realises that he's better than Celtic as far as where our club stature is in European football. He could probably go to Germany and get a good game, or Spain or somewhere of the likes. I wouldn't be surprised to see Carter Vickers move on. So we do need somebody lined up to replace him. Lager Bielka could be, Navrocki could be. They're both 21, 23, so they're both fairly young as well in that sense. And the same goes for O'Reilly. You're not expecting these guys to be here long term. So the fact of getting 2/3 seasons out of these guys is pretty good. If Paulo Bernardo's here on loan with an option to buy whatever that option price may be, I'd assume around about £7 million mark again, like Jota, then it's good business to go to a team like Benfica, who are producing massive talents every single year, and not all of them get straight into the team. So they do need to come out on loan and potentially make those deals permanent. So I'm all for it when it comes to guys like that.
Aye, that's what I like. When you take obviously the Nat Phillips thing's slightly different, because I think that's done obviously to serve a purpose. But like, we've done it with Jota, we've done it with Carter Vickers. The loan to buy thing, it's essentially try before you buy in it. And if they're good, we've got first dibs on them, the agreement's there. So I'm not against deals like that. When it's just a straight loan for a loan's sake, like we've seen so many times in the past, that kind of defeats the purpose for me a wee bit. You're just kicking the can further down the road. But the Nat Phillips one is totally understandable. As I say, that's essentially an emergency loan. And then obviously Bernardo coming in, potentially a Matt O'Reilly replacement for next summer if he shows what he's got. So overall, I mean, we sat here last week and it was pretty hard to be positive. There wasn't really much to be positive about. We still needed bodies in the transfer window. We didn't get them. We were getting into that game at the weekend and we weren't confident. And then we're sitting here a week later, scudded them at Ibrox, got a wee gap in the league. Chris Boyd's in tears and Brendan Rodgers is back in the room. So it's all looking rosy in the garden again, and hopefully we can kick on now and put a wee run together and get a few good performances in now.
It is, and just to talk about that wee run coming up, so when we do return from the international break on the 16th of September, we play Dundee at home. No disrespect to Dundee, but I think we all expect probably a clean sheet in all 3 points there with a couple of goals for sure. Kyle goes on form. Maybe we'll see a goal from Abada or whoever else, and see some of the new players kind of stepping up to the plate. You confident in that game as well?
Aye, you've got to be now. I would have probably said the same going into the St Johnstone game a couple of weeks ago, but as I say, the kind of feel-good factor's back, so you've got to be, aye.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? The feel-good factor's back. The window's closed. There's no more who's staying, who's going. It is what it is. We go forward with what we've got. There's this break where the manager can now work on the basis of the 4-point gap, the win over them, and actually start building what he needs to build with the team that he knows is his team going forward. I'm going to ignore the Feyenoord game and the Lazio game just now. They're the first 2 games in the Champions League, and just focus on the next game after Dundee as a trip to Livingston away and a trip to Motherwell away before we eventually play Kilmarnock at home, and that takes us up to the 7th of October. The game after that is Hearts away at Tynecastle. That's your next 5 games, I think it is, if my maths is right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. 15 points out of 15, or do you think maybe Kilmarnock at home could be a slip up? Do you think maybe Hearts at Tynecastle is a slip up?
It's a difficult wee run. Hearts are no great shakes I know, but Tynecastle's never an easy place to go. Motherwell are flying now, so that would maybe be a bit of a hard game. But no, hopefully, as I say, hopefully we can kick on now, and if we kick on, then there is no, obviously you've got to back yourself in every league game, why would you know, but hopefully we'll get 15 points. I think that's obviously going to be what we aim for. It is a wee difficult run that we've got coming up. Obviously, going to Almondvale, we kind of tend to struggle there. It's not been so bad the last couple of years, but it's always a kind of sticky game. But got to be confident moving forward now. As I say, we'll have Hattati back. We've got the Irish Berries 8 at the back now, so we're sorted.
Yeah, I would expect all 15 points myself, but I'm realistic and we might slip up. As you say, Almondvale can be a difficult one for us playing there away. Motherwell, I'd still expect us to get all points in Motherwell, and Hearts away at Tynecastle. That will be a difficult game, regardless of what their form is. That always is going to be a feisty one. But all 15 points shouldn't be a hard ask, really. But we might slip up and drop 2 points along the way. The beauty of that is obviously the 4 point gap. I'm not going to bother looking at their run of games. It doesn't matter to me, so long as we keep doing better than them and doing what we need to do. But I like where we're at now compared to last week, James. As you said a moment ago yourself, it's doom and gloom last week, but all of a sudden Rodgers is back. We're on a win. We've scudded them. We now look forward to the next few games, and I think there's a run of games there that, yes, are probably difficult to some, but it's a run of games that we can build confidence from each game by game. The other 2 games in between all that is the Feyenoord away game, which opens up the Champions League, and the Lazio at home before we eventually play Atletico Madrid in the back-to-back double-header there, which actually I've just noticed means that we do Edinburgh away 2 weeks in a row. We play Hearts and then we play Hibs. We Atletico Madrid in between. That's an interesting one that's been thrown up to us. That's a bit of a tough ask, that.
I know it's a tough wee run we've got coming up. But as I say, hopefully we just kick on now. A wee win against Feyenoord in there wouldn't do any harm either. But it is going to be a tough wee run. Motherwell, as I say, flying the new. Hibs obviously just sacked their manager, so they might get a wee bounce. And I think we've only got only one home game we've got in the next kind of few weeks, in it. The Dundee game, I think that's it.
We start
anyway.
with...
Obviously the Feyenoord as well. Oh no, sorry, Feyenoord's away, isn't it?
We start with our finals away. We start with Dundee at home on the 16th of September, and the next home game after that isn't until the 4th of October against Lazio. In the league, it would actually be a home, 2 away, and a home. The Champions League game makes that look a bit worse. But yeah, as I think it was it was Patrick, I think it was, who was talking about the 6 weeks ago, he was mentioning a run of the games coming up. And yeah, it's not the worst run that I've seen, but there is a bit of that double header in Edinburgh away, Hearts then Hibs. That's actually pretty brutal.
Tricky.
The more I think about that. Anyway, James, pleasure is always having ourselves on. Gavin is unfortunately MIA tonight. He has baby duties going on. Hopefully, he shall be back with us next week. Any thoughts just before we leave, James, on the international breaks? Are you watching any of the football at all, or do you take the route of a Paddy Mill and say, fuck that shit?
No, I watch it. I can't say it really excites me, but I will stick it on.
Tomorrow night, isn't it? Cyprus, I believe.
No, it's Friday night.
Friday night, is it? Oh, wow.
Aye. And then I think it's England on Tuesday. It's either Monday or Tuesday.
Got to be Tuesday, surely not Friday and Monday.
Aye, fair. Probably
Surely.
Tuesday then, aye.
I'm
sure it's Friday, Tuesday.
Interesting that. Right, well, we'll take that from there. It's 8:10. We've been on for a solid hour and 3 minutes. Our timekeeping wasn't that horrendous today, James. I'm going to end this stream. I will say to the guys who are watching live, thank you very much for being here. As always, hit the like button, hit the follow button, subscribe button, wherever it is on YouTube these days. Share the podcast out to the world. A little update on the whole Patreon thing. We're going to kick that down the line. A few guys were donating money to it for the month or so that we're trying to actually push it, but with the squad numbers ourselves dropping down without Paddy, we're just going to focus on the Tuesday Tic Talk, the odd kind of match review if we've got something good to talk about and a good big game result sort of thing. But we're going to kick the Patreon stuff down the road a little bit. Thank you, everybody who's donated so far. I'm going to tie it all off, and once we get that sorted, we'll take that money that's there. And as Paddy kindly and quite rightly committed ourselves to, we'll take that money, we'll put it straight into a charity, more than likely one that we're all familiar with so far in the Celtic circles. We may bring the Patreon stuff back. I may start it up even on my own accord at some point, depending on how we're feeling, but it's going to be a non-committal sort of thing, so please bear with us if that ever does. But, for now, we're going to kick it down the road. Last other thing I'm going to say is this new little software that we're using for bringing you the Tuesday Tic Talk is still me trying to fumble my way around. So I'm going to end the stream just now, James. I'm hoping, much like how my stream started this afternoon, that as soon as I press a button, it'll play the outro music, or the intro music as it did this earlier on an hour ago. If there's no outro music, I do apologise. I'm sure you'll all survive without it. But thank you very much, James, for being with me. Hail, everybody. Good night.
See you later.